So our final speaker for the Sub-Saharan Africa region is George Kanyama, who is showcasing Zambia. George is an English teacher at Koma Secondary School, Zambia. He has a BEd, is a local teachers association leader, a member of IATEFL, head of a literature and language department, and an examiner for a local exams body. He recently attended the Hornby Regional School in Ethiopia. Over to you, George.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, or it's afternoon in Sub-Saharan Africa. Good morning everywhere else, and good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My presentation will focus on teaching creative writing using domestic animals in lower secondary school. I'll give you a background on this topic. Recently, our government, some 5-6 years ago, revised the school curriculum. Initially, we used to have English as our medium of instruction and communication from preschool to tertiary level. But after engagement with UNESCO, the curriculum was revised to improve literacy, and from 2014, English is a medium of communication, of course, as prior to that, but as a medium of instruction, it begins from the 5th grade. So even before then, our rural learners used to have challenges in acquiring necessary language skills to be able to enable them communicate effectively, especially in writing. And this switch in syllabus has posed even further challenges because they have to switch to English in the 5th grade. And so most of them do not have the language that they require to write effectively as they get to grade 9. And according to our Examinations Council of Zambia report for 2016, it actually indicates that 20% of the learners, especially from rural areas, score a 0 in composition or writing examinations. And so we have been challenged as teachers in schools to find means and ways of improving learners' writing skills. And so that's how this technique comes in. We are still perfecting it, but it's proving effective. Now, agriculture is our main, apart from the mines, of course, in the other parts of the country. In the southern part of our country, agriculture is a very common economic activity. And so most learners, especially from the rural areas, are very familiar with agricultural practices such as rearing animals of various types. And so based on the principle by SEBA 2012, we looked at that some learners respond more to objects than they do to more abstract teaching materials when it comes to learning how to write. As a result, we looked at using this technique as a remedial approach to help those that are really struggling in the lower secondary level. So we use it by building on to the techniques that they use at the primary school level, where children learn how to pronounce words, and also by forming words from the sounds by, for example, B for banana when they are learning the alphabet. So we built from that and looked at the domestic animals that learners are really exposed to be able to tell stories and write. So that's the background to our discussion. So basically we use 4 steps, okay? So the first step that we use is visual stimulation. We have many ways, but the two basic ways that we use, we have a school crowd where we have cattle. So we take the learners there, those that have problems, to go and see the animals, so that we try to take them back to the home environment where they had those encounters with the animals of the same kind. In instances where access is not possible to the animals, the live animals at that time, we use pictures through PowerPoint presentations, or just a collection of pictures from the store and from the library. So from there, after they have seen, the learners now begin to visualize their experiences, previous experiences with the animals, and then stories are made from there. There are some who may have used animals to plow their fields. Others use them for milk, and then there are those that use them for beef in certain parts where they are kept more like wild animals. They just go and catch them and take them home. So they have different experiences, and those are the experiences that they have to think about, so that as we get to sit now, they are able to write their ideas, to formulate the stories from the experiences. They're also able to write poems or even descriptions of the encounters they had. Sometimes we also ask them to even write a letter to the animals, write letters to the animals. So we use this technique to teach the various forms of writing. The story narratives we used for descriptions, and also poetry and the letter writing. At the end of the writing process, which they do individually because they have different experiences with the animals, we put them in small groups. In those small groups, they do share the stories or poems or whatever letters they have written. It's a very wonderful experience when they start reading, because most of them even improve their reading even during those times. So they first read their own stories, and then later on they do read each other's stories. So this picture is an example of a man that is using the cattle to work on his fields. These are maize fields, because maize is our main crop in the region. So this is, when you give them such a picture, it takes them back home. They have an experience. They are able to experience what they do at home, and from there they are able to formulate stories and other forms of writing. Okay, these are an example of beef animals. They are never used for agriculture, the plowing and so on. They are kept for beef purposes, and even these, they have a way that they are taken care of, and learners of different kinds have experiences with them. So all these pictures, both pictures are courtesy of Zambia National Farmers Union, their website. So during visualization, we ask learners to think of the color of the animals, the size, because they have different sizes, the gender, whether it's female or male, whether it's a bull, an ox, and then also the horn formations, which differ from one breed to another, and also other physical features that I can remember from the animals that they own at home. So all these features, they are able to take note while they are still in the presence of the animals that we use as examples. So in the thinking process, after seeing the animals, the learners think about their own experiences with the animals back home. It has to be, so if that day you are teaching a narrative, we guide the thinking process to focus on stories. So each one of them should think of their encounter, the stories with the animals. Even with the aspect of gender roles and where you find mostly girls are with food preparation and also crop, they also have, now the dynamics have changed in most of our rural areas. Women also have encounters with cattle. Some of them actually use them to plow because men are not always there. Even the male folks are not always there. So for narratives and descriptions, we look at learners' special experiences with the animals. If they went cattle heading, for example, and then while in the bush, probably their animals were attacked by a wild animal, and then what happened? How did they survive, and so on? And also, what kind of help did they find? And so, all those experiences, even experiences even at home, if an animal got sick, and then how they felt, and so on. And for letters and poems, we usually their personal attachments these young ones have with the animals, their favorite animals for different kinds of reasons. They have all those animals that have an influence and a personal sentimental value to them, and so they write the poems and letters to express their feelings towards those animals. And it's a lovely thing to see and read. So during the writing stage, we look at story questions, for example. What happened between you and the animal or the other animals? Where and when did it happen? What who was with you when it happened? How did you feel about it? Did the incident change how you feel about the animal? If so, how did it affect your feelings? And what lessons did you learn from the incident? So all these questions help the children to reflect and also focus their stories, build their stories from the questions. And if there are any other questions we can add to the storyline, they can be added depending on the lesson of the day. And so these help with the writing processes. Okay, so when we get to the sharing stage, the learners are put in groups, like I said earlier, and each learner reads their own story to the group, in their own group. And then the group members ask questions and give feedback of what they think about the story. Sometimes you can tell from how they react, they look at each other, if they giggle, or you can tell what kind of reaction they are giving to the friend. But you have to go around the groups so that you make sure that they don't turn it into some sort of a circus for laughing at each other. And at the end of the first session, probably when they have all read their stories, they should be short stories, nothing extraordinarily long, maybe 200 words or less, sometimes even just a paragraph. To help, we start from paragraphs, just a paragraph that tells the story, a few answers to the to the questions that are produced for the story. Afterwards, we build on those stories so that it becomes a longer and add more details to it. The class, at the end of the story reading, is able to vote. We select from each group a story that stimulates a lot of group participation, and then we read it out to the class, and the class votes. So the best story is posted on the library press board so that others can read, and it's a good motivational technique, and the children do their best to write the best stories so that they help their friends and also improve their language. Okay, so the benefits of this method is, first, the animals connect the learners with their own environment and culture. They do not have any problems writing about their own stories, writing their own stories from their own background. So it helps them to blend with their own environment and find solace in their culture and be proud of it. It also creates a sensory connection between the learners and their subjects. The subjects in this case are the animals, so they have that connection. They're able to visualize their experiences with the animals, and they have that connection even if the animals are not here at school. By the way, they are in boarding. So it also offers direct tactile with the experience for learners. It doesn't need explaining. You don't have to explain so much for children to do something, but without just too much explanation, just looking at the animals and giving them a few instructions, they're able to do something about it. It also offers latitude for shaping learners' interests and needs. Most of them don't like learning composition, for example, writing, since it's a challenge. So a good number of children are not motivated enough, or they don't have enough interest in learning writing skills. So with this kind of approach, their interest is enhanced, and their participation in the learning process is awesome. The animals also arouse curiosity. They are curious to look at what can I also touch this animal the way I can touch my own back at home, because some of the animals could be harsh. So they are curious to find out a lot, and so in that curiosity they are able to write good stories. And it also facilitates concept learning in the high-level reasoning and assessment. When the learners look at various aspects that are connected to the animals, their reasoning is enhanced and they are able to assess themselves. Okay. In my conclusion, so far the method has worked well at my school, especially with the lower secondary learners who come to boarding school from the rural areas. We have managed to help quite a number of them to boost their confidence in their writing. Also, their writing skills have relatively improved. We are trying to look at using a similar concept to look at learners from urban areas. There are a lot of things that they do have encounters with the technology and so on. There are those that have good spoken language, but their written language is still very poor due to various factors. So we are working on a model where we can use a similar approach, but this time focusing on urban objects that are found in cities and in urban areas, that can help also that kind of children or learners to also boost their writing skills. Okay, so it's still a new method, and we are only using it at my school at the moment. Once we have foul-proofed its efficacy, we plan to share it with nearby schools so that even our friends can benefit from it and also help in their teaching. So these are some of the references I looked at when preparing this presentation. I don't know if there are questions. Let me check the
Yes,
chat
George,
box.
thank you very much. You still have 10 more minutes, so you can happily deal with the questions.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me just check through.
George, can you see the questions? Okay, so
Not really. I'm seeing a lot
yeah,
of
towards the
compliments
end,
only.
I can see some questions.
Okay.
So Shirin
Okay.
is saying that, can you see her comment? Okay, good.
Yes, I have seen it. Okay. Okay. I see mostly of even hers is more of a comment. Okay, so the teacher and the students, let's see. Today I attended the period school. It was about animals. The teacher, the real cat, and okay, students were energetic and made their own sentences about those animals, what they like, and okay, yeah, it's okay. Hers is also a comment, so it does work. So there are those that they are domestic animals, they are pets like cats, yeah, and the dogs, which they can, with the authority of the school, carry to the school. And from there, where children can also formulate their own questions, that is even better if they are able to formulate their own questions. We do it in stages because most of them have really serious problems, even with language. So first we try by doing formulating the questions for them, and then at a later stage, as they improve, they are able to formulate their own questions because their storylines will have to change. Thank you so much, Serene, for that. It's a good insight.
Can you see the question about collaboration skill?
Okay, can you also embed collaboration skill? Of course, collaboration skill. Yes, we can embed it actually into this method, so that if if the learners from the different groups can come in, they can sometimes the children can write a story together, and also we can use stories for groups. Groups can also write a story together. One write the other part and another. Then you connect the stories together. It can also be used.
And can you see the question about,
Okay.
yeah, stories from different parts of the
To
world?
bring real animals to class. Is it good to bring real animals to class? This really depends on the rules that govern your school. Things like cats and for children that are day scholars, I think it would be fine, depending on the authority that you, if you are granted authority by the school. I think it would be a great idea. But animals like cattle, you cannot bring them to class. You have to follow them where they are. But small animals, for purpose of a lesson, if the school allows it, I think it would be a great idea because they would be there throughout the lesson, and they'll offer more
Marcelo
stimulation to the
also
learners.
has a question. Could we share stories from different parts of the world to engage
Okay.
students with different realities?
Of course, of course, this one would be very, so as they improve their reasoning, and also they widen the context, we can share from different parts of the world. Actually, we can read stories from different parts of the world in order for them to be in contact with different realities. That's lovely. So this one is more at a basic level, so that the learners begin to develop their writing skills. And then as you share more stories, you give them more insight, and they're able to write their stories even better. Okay. Okay, so Shireen's question continues that since some students' attention was scattered following the animals. Okay, like I said, on the issue of bringing animals to the school, I'm sure you would require consent from administration of the school, and after looking at pros and cons of the whole idea. I use the concept mostly as a remedial method. So we have a small group of learners that have writing difficulties. Those are the ones that we take through that process. We haven't extended it to the whole class, because there are those that do not have serious problems in writing. So the animals could be a distraction if you took them to class, for example, and you have to work out a mechanism with the school administration to avoid such. Okay, Judy. Okay, do we include yes? After visualizing, seeing the animals, they are able to visualize they can create their own images to support their stories from back home. It is a good way of telling the story, and I think it would be very good. Which would be more effective, peer assessment or teacher assessment? Oh, sorry. Okay, teacher assessment and peer assessment. Okay, which one would be more effective? Well, learners, of course, they would love to hear approval of the teacher, but even peer assessment, because most of them as they grow into teens, they love peer approval as well.
So this can be the last question,
both
if you
can
want to answer.
be very effective depending on how you apply them. 45 or the technique would be better. Okay. Okay, this one, can we apply 40? Okay, it's to 45 has another technique would be better. Maria, can we apply it to 45? Another technique could be better.
Yeah, maybe she can then later send you an email.
I don't get the question.
All right.
Well,
Thank you very much, George.
She means
Thank you
by
very
45?
much. Thank you.
Is that for an age?
For your participation, and hope to see you soon.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that will be fine. That will be.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Sunem.